Hi and welcome to evolution, or as I like to call it, the idea that all living organisms on Earth have evolved over millions and millions of years from more simple life forms. Probably about 3 billion years since the first life forms on Earth. Now we have to look at two theories. The first is by Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, a French biologist. He was into this idea of the inheritance of acquired characteristics. So the way that organisms behave affects the features of their body, kind of a use it or lose it deal. So this guy here, he lives in a pretty small area. He's left-handed, he writes left-handed, he eats left-handed. So it's really no advantage to him to have his right arm. So the idea is that because he's not going to use it, he's going to lose it. Now according to Baptiste, because this is such an advantage only having one right arm, he doesn't have to eat as much food, he can get through smaller doorways, only has to pay half fare on the guess your weight machine. His characteristic would then be passed on to his offspring, and they would be born with only one arm as well, the right arm gone. Now in reality, because they didn't know about these ideas of genes and characteristics and passing it on, that's not true, because his genes still coded for two arms. So all of his offspring would be born with two arms. So nice try, Jean-Baptiste, but non-cigar. So along came another gentleman by the name of Charles Darwin. He'd been working on his theory, influenced by Baptiste. Now he believed in the idea of evolution, the change of organisms over billions of years from more simple life forms to more complex life forms. Through this process he called natural selection. He was of the idea that in any given population there is variation among the individuals. We now know that this is caused by differences in their genetic code. But the variation means that some of those organisms in the species are more suited to their environment than others. So, not much use from this guy, he's not very suited to the environment. Maybe there's a change in the temperature, so too cold for this guy, and this guy, and this guy. So now we have organisms that are ideally suited to their environment. And because they are so suited to their environment, they are more likely to mate and pass on their genes. Whoa, there we go. Kind of a survival of the fittest thing. So they are passing on their genes, those genes become more common to the environment, the organism changes and the species changes into this shape. So that's a pretty good guess. Now we've got a little bit more evidence to back it up in terms of genetics, which they didn't have in those days. Of course, when Darwin wrote his famous book on the origin of species by natural selection, it very much went against the doctrine of the time that things were created by a supreme being. Whoa, another one. See, well, yeah, much more likely to pass them on. And of course, they didn't have the genetic evidence to back it up, and there weren't as many examples. So over time, it's now come to be accepted as the genuine theory of evolution. -1 million to Baptiste, 1 to Charles Darwin.